Well, hello everyone, and Happy New Year, and welcome back to Suzerain, where we will commence season 3. Yes, if we count. Yeah, Kingdom of Rus is not a separate season; it's its own season. Well, it's part of season 2, season 2.5. Let's call it. Never mind. Um, this time, the Kingdom of Ruzia run will be part of season 3, and season 3 will be our Sollist run. Being an asshole is gonna be fun. Well, I could be worse. Uh, I could be starting with a fascist run. Okay, let us start our story. For my enslavement and my freedom, you are my flesh burning like a raw summer night. You are my country. Okay, you open your eyes to this world. I came from, let's say, middle income family in the city of Holsort. Parents named you Anton. As the only child of a diligent civil servant, you lived quite an ordinary childhood. Life was not bad. You were lucky enough to attend a well known public school, but frequent fights broke out at the Rain family home, which made you feel uneasy. The years passed. During a history class at school, the bell started to ring unexpectedly. You heard a loud commotion outside. As everyone tried to figure out what was going on, the principal announced a historic revolution. The kingdom was no more. The Republic of Sordland was born. See, we were somewhat worried. After graduating, you passed the university exam with high marks. You had the opportunity to choose between several studies. You studied um I say we studied history at the Dyer University of Culture. During the first year, you attended a lecture with David Vichy. He was a well-known diplomat from the Foreign Ministry and the son of the president. After observing the hall in silence, he explained why realpolitik is important for a successful foreign policy. He argued that a strategy based on practical and material factors would be much more successful in reaching Sordland's ambitions. Uh, uh, sure, I agreed in principle. Soldiers entered the campus in the evening ahead of the first election. Many were in shock as the uniformed men created a security cordon and started arresting the teachers. A group of students started gathering in protest. Along with your best friend Peter Vectorn, you decided to um, say protest. Yeah, because this is the Sollist coup. Let's say we protest with the students. If I remember correctly, that's not this. Yeah, that's Sol overthrows this guy. Okay. One of the officers made a loud announcement that echoed through the campus. General Luderin declared martial law in order to restore the administration. Please stand back to and disperse to your rooms. You joined the students that slowly marched towards the large group of soldiers. Suddenly, the soldiers charged. So I held my ground. A student fell and was trampled as everybody started running away. I held my ground. The soldiers beat you relentlessly. It was a gloomy year. The coup split the students into two groups and caused frequent fights. Torture and imprisonment of any opposing voice became a daily routine in Dyer. You didn't want to stay idle and decided to join a student council. The council was focused on increasing the student involvement on the campus along with partaking in the budget. Though active participation through active participation, you gained budget management and leadership skills. In one of the meetings, Peter Factor introduced you to a classmate of his, Monica. You were immediately attracted to her, let's say, her diligence. She mentioned to you that she was a volunteer for the Swordlish League of Women, an organization campaigning for women's rights. You That's the thing. Yeah, I'm a Soul. It's the Soulist run. Yeah, I wasn't particularly interested in. Monica's gonna divorce us in this run, isn't she? You know my heart. You know, in the previous runs, we wholeheartedly support her, but this time we're role playing. We weren't particularly interested in women's rights, but asked her to dinner nonetheless. The politically charged environment led you to. Um, I mean, soulists. It's soulism's peronism. It's just we're neither or. We're neither and both. Uh, Stay away from any political organization. The radio relayed that the Communist General Ricard surrounded Lutheran and his troops, demanding their surrender. They refused, and heavy fighting broke out across the country. You just couldn't believe it. The army was fighting amongst themselves. Sordland plunged into chaos. Clashes escalated into a full blown civil war. The horrors made you isolate yourself for a while. Monica helped you cope, and love grew between the two of you. However, it was a difficult time for love. The chaos had to end. The charismatic Colonel Tarkin Sol orchestrated a sudden attack on the capital where the Lutheranists and Ricardo's forces were battling each other. He defeated both, ending the war. A new constitution was written, and the military government began efforts to restore stability. Many people saw the colonel as a savior. He formed the United Sordland Party and ran as a presidential candidate in the first ever single party elections. He voted for the United Sordland Party. We are true believers in Solism. And it's New Year's. If you hear fireworks, it's because it's just at midnight. I am recording this a little bit later than I wanted to. USP won the election by a large majority. The military government announced a 4-year restoration period to transform to an entirely civilian government. After graduation, you kept seeing Monica. You were both interested in marrying and starting a family. However, a letter arrived from the military calling you to fulfill your compulsory service. It was time to serve your national duty. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to choose the bad option here because we're conflicted. So we are uh, true believers in solism. The devastating civil war from neighboring Velen quickly turned into a proxy war between regional and world powers. The distinguished Major Josef Lancia ordered you to lead your squad on the border patrol mission. It was a very cold winter night when you began marching out of Gomran Outpost. You could see your breath. After several hours of marching through the snowy hills, distant noises were heard. Visibility was too low to confirm the source, so the squad crawled forward in formation and found a spot to observe. A group of refugees had made it beyond the border. You escorted them back. Yeah, this is not. Yeah, I'm gonna make a lot of decisions that I don't like. Refugees were in despair when they realized you were taking them back to the border. Screams and protests ensued. As they were restrained, you delivered them to the border guards. After several months of military service, your duties ended and you went back to civilian life. You and Monica decided to share your lives together. After receiving the blessing of your parents, a ceremony was held in Whole Sword. During the same year, you were offered a high-paying job with the governing United Sordland Party. It was important to start your career on a good foot, so you accepted it. Yes, working for the ruling party was the easiest path to power. You became the foreign policy assistant to one of the more experienced members of Assembly. You worked long and hard, reviewing dozens of foreign policy plans late into the night. You were climbing the ladder. Tarkin Sol gave amnesty to the remaining factions of the Civil War and chose de-escalation and appeasement. The institution and symbols of the former kingdom were slowly replaced. His government launched several new initiatives, such as a citizen-funded bills program to revitalize the economy, a social labor initiative to help rebuild and improve society, and a large dam project to solve the energy crisis. The first multi-party elections in the history of Sordland were held. President Tarkin Sol was elected once more. The preparation of a comprehensive trade agreement with Agnolia was occupying most of your personal time, but your significant contribution to the trade talks triggered an invitation to meet President Tarkin Sol himself, who offered you a key position. You were to become the youngest member of Assembly. I accepted right away. It's a great honor. As the youngest MP, it was difficult to connect with the influential inner circle. You needed allies, so you brought on Peter Vectorn as your right-hand man. The birth of your son Frank provided a brief moment of joy and relief. We're true believers. Frank's gonna hate us anyways. Sacrifice family time to improve your position in the party. Along with Peter Vector, you did great things to cement your position in the party. Meanwhile, at home, Monica and Frank felt your absence. At the same time, President Sol increased his authority over the years. His growing ego started to cause strife within the USP. The cracks began to show. President Sol barely secured a majority in the election against the opposition leader. Over the next year, the Sordland people grew increasingly discontent with corruption and the worsening quality of life. Economic growth was slowing down. Meanwhile, calls for a united Sordland Party Congress became louder as a leadership struggle started to brew. I kept supporting the president, of course. We're avowed Solists. The contender for party leadership was Edward Alfonso, a reformist and talented business magnate with a growing follower base within the party. President Sol noticed your attempts to secure votes for him and approached you with a lucrative deal. You had a meeting with him. The president offered you the position of Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade in the next government if you backed him in the upcoming vote. I, of course, accepted. The Congress was nothing short of impressive. The banners of the United Sordland Party were decorating every possible spot. Thousands of influential political figures, lobbyists, and benefactors gathered for this turning point. The voting for the party leadership began. I voted for Tarquin Sol. Unfortunately, Tarquin Sol lost the leadership vote to Ewald Alfonso by a small margin. During the Congress, Sol announced he would retire from politics at the end of his term and appointed Alfonso as vice president. The systems he had established were to stay much longer. His achievements wouldn't be forgotten. I was troubled by the departure of your leader. A month later, your daughter was born. Monica named her Dina. She motivated you during a tumultuous period in the party. As the VP and the leader of the USP, Ewald Alfonso began dismantling the old organizations and structures established by the USP, such as the State Educators Corps and the Sordland State Corporation bills. The general elections were approaching. The United Sordland Party was under new leadership. I did my best not to help him. During the general elections, the main opposition leader was embroiled in a sex scandal with his secretary. He was replaced by the more popular figure Franz Richter, but the damage had been done. The new economic policies and the extensive privatization program proposed by Ewald Alfonso secured an election victory for the United Sordland Party. Over the following years, I tried all that was necessary to dedicate myself to the party and to its success. Even though I'll stab Alfonso in the back as soon as fucking possible. The presidency of Alfonso saw many bold reforms in government and law and advancements in liberal democratic values. However, due to infighting and disorganization, continental economic tensions, and fast-track privatization, it was followed by a severe economic recession. The other parties announced their bids for the 1953 election, but the unfair election system hampered opposition efforts to campaign. You thought that your party could not survive another crisis. With Peter's help, your presence in the USP grew. The two of you worked long nights together. He flipped opponents to your side. You became the face of a new wing of the party. Step by step and with adequate planning, your wing took over the leadership as President Alfonso lost control of the country. The moment to make your move had come. You blamed Alfonso for the crisis on television. The media backlash prompted President Alfonso to reshuffle his cabinet, but most of his inner circle, even Minister of Development Gus Manger, abandoned him. Alfonso was removed from power by a no-confidence vote. The party eventually voted you in because of your influence. Following this, you announced that you would be running for president in the general election with Peter as your running mate. It was your turn. After visiting every city and town during the campaign, you made a speech on state television. I promise to preserve national values. Great nation of Sordland, due to our incompetent leadership, enemies both internal and external are influencing our glorious nation. Today, more than ever, we need to unite under one flag and protect our values. Greki Sordland. The broadcast ended. On election day, millions went out to cast their votes. It was time to face the truth. President Reign. Here we go, lads. Now, what's going to be the most Sollist? What's the most Sollist thing possible? Okay, Sordist. Ah, yes. 100% Sordist. Yes, I am sure about my customization. I look like shit. Does Anton Rainey have made consequential promises? Yada yada yada. Okay, promote more. Yeah, promote a more planned economy. Remain neutral. We toughen. Yeah, we're going back to Solis standards. So toughen immigration laws. Unfortunately. Let's focus on defense. Or law and order. Do you want to go law and order or... No, let's go defense. Law and order would be more fascist, I think. Defense more Sordish. So more Soulist. Finish. Yes. No, I'm not sure about my decision. I hate them, but that's the character I'm playing. 2 weeks have passed since we won the election, and I was about to be sworn in as the 4th president of Sordland. Thousands were watching the inauguration ceremony and cheering my name, Anton Rain. The die was cast, and there my story began. In the distance, the Maroon Palace stood on top of the famous Hill of Pride. I had no way of knowing what future awaited me there. I looked at my family. My son and daughter, Frank and Dina, were next to Monica, my wife. Her eyes were glimmering with pride. Then I turned toward the key people who made it all possible, of course. Each individual was promised an important... each individual was promised an important position in my government. I saw my previous rival and former President Ewald Alfonso. Tarkin Sol was also invited, but as expected, he didn't leave his island retreat. As my thoughts slowly faded away, the reality of the situation dawned on me. Orso Hawker, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, was waiting for me. The time for the oath has come. I am ready. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will respectfully execute the office of the President of Sordland, and to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the people and the Constitution of the Republic of Sordland. You may now deliver your inauguration speech, Mr. President. It is an honor. My fellow swords, crowd look very eager to listen to me. The current dire situation... We are enduring economic hardships like never before, and today our nation is falling apart. Our people will suffer in this dire situation. Shall we talk about the issues that plague us? We still have insufficient infrastructure, houses without electricity, without water. We have crime in our streets, unemployment within the youth, and we still have injustices in the government that plague us. The future... Okay, doesn't really follow from the previous thing. Yeah, the future awaits us. Sordland's above all in the world. It is time for a united and powerful Sordland once again. Hundreds of thousands didn't really follow from that to that, but fine. They were shouting my name in unison. I felt the responsibility, the power, and the burden all at the same time. Sure, let's wave. I waved the crowd, which made the people cheer louder. I took a long look at the people of Sordland to burn this moment into my memory. One of the presidential guards came by to notify me that it was time to leave. I made my way to the leading car in the motorcade. The presidential state car was a jet black Cadilla with flags of Sordland above the front headlights. Next to it, a man was holding the door. We're gonna. I don't want to be rude to Serge. Hello, Mr. President. Felt euphoric from the aftermath of my speech. Hearing my new title made me smile even more. If you allow me to introduce myself, I am Serge, your new driver. It's a pleasure. Pleasure is all but mine. He respectfully bowed his head before opening the car door and gesturing inside. I entered the car. We will be heading towards the palace. The motorcade began to move. On the way, Serge proceeded to explain his duties as a driver. And as the minutes passed by, I found myself lost in thought. Again, barely paying attention to what he was saying, he suddenly gestured out the window. Isn't it a beauty, the Maroon Palace? He was right. Sunlight glinted off the palace's many maroon-colored domes. It was so bright that I had to look away. Every time I look at it, I am reminded of my duty to this nation. Yes, we all owe a great debt to the men who led the country from here. Their service will not be forgotten. The car drove past the majestic gates, continued uphill to the entrance, and stopped in front of the doors. Serge got out of the car and opened the door for me. Have a great day, Mr. President. I'm Morgana Westcore. He referred to the famous soldier's phrase from the times of revolution, Morgana Westcore Vectorn Sizda, which meant morning will come, victory is close. Vectorn Sizda. I made my way upstairs through the extravagant corridors of the palace. Marble and engraved wooden finishes decorated the interior. My footsteps echoed in the colossal halls. The guards bowed their heads in respect as I opened the massive doors to my new office. Fantastic. Okay. President Anton Rain, yada yada yada. And Solonomics. No. We go back to Solonomics. Okay. Another USB present. Yes, indeed. Okay, low production in Agna. Everything's doing great, right? Okay, congratulations, yada yada yada. Thank you very much. Now, what should we do first? Sure, let's start on the current political situation. Vectorn arrived a couple of minutes early and sat across from me. He was struggling to hold back a smile. We did it, Anton, we won. Finally, all those games we played with the media paid off. Petter's eyes sparkled. The strain of the past months had put a damper on his usual rakish charm, but today he was looking and acting more like his old self. He loosened his tie and undid the top 2 buttons of his shirt. Enjoy the new secretary I picked out for you, though you'd appreciate her gorgeous set of talents. Fuck's sake, we're gonna have to deal with that. Again, it's a shame the rest of your staff aren't as easy on the eyes. He gestured to the slight paunch that protruded over his waistband. But hey, back in university, did you ever imagine we would be sitting here in the Maroon Palace? We have to celebrate this great victory. Sure. Let's celebrate then. I got my hands on something special for us, an elderly maroon 30-year-old. I opened the expensive bottle of whiskey and poured it into glasses I prepared. The exquisite smells filled the room immediately. In 1924? That was my freshman year, also the year after the revolution. Very difficult times, to be honest, but this smells like heaven. The future awaits, Petter. I toast. I raised my glass and toasted with Petter before smelling the whiskey and taking a sip. The sweet vanilla tone combined with an oaky taste developed into a lingering smokiness. Petter really seemed to be enjoying himself. What a taste. This is how we should start all meetings, Anton. We wouldn't get much done. Remember the last administration? Yeah, but we are different. All they did was enjoy the privilege. Yeah, we can't make the same mistakes again. We learned from it all, have we though? I sure do hope so. The door swung open and Lucian Galad, my chief strategist, walked in. He was a compact man with sharp bird-like features. After briefly surveying the room from wall to wall, he sat down, poured a glass of water, and opened his briefcase in a series of quick, graceful movements. Gentlemen, the tall case clock in the room struck 3 o'clock. Damn, you're exactly on time. Hello, Peter. Lucian then turned towards me. He very slightly bowed his head. Okay, glad to see you, Lucian. It is a privilege to be here, sir. Lucian spoke in soft, clipped tones that immediately drew your attention towards what he had to say. Peter and I waited for him to proceed. Let's start by evaluating our current situation. The majority of the Sordland people demand change. They are more concerned about the economy than the constitution, but they blame the system for their problems. People are losing their trust in our democracy. Why do you think radicals like Bernard Circus are becoming more popular? Everyone's expecting us to bring the change the last government did not. Franz Richter, leader of the Reformists, believes that the true change can only be accomplished by transferring some of our powers to the Assembly. I'll move into the details of their demand shortly. Sure, if we lose power, we won't be able to execute the changes we need to make for the good of the country. It may create issues for us, yes. However, with the reformists gaining more popularity, we may not be in a position to stand against them. Mr. Richter managed to persuade many members of the Assembly to give their support for drafting a new constitution. Reformist politicians are quickly increasing in number. While the reformist wing inside our party is still a minority, they could have a tripartisan majority in the Assembly, especially if they unite under Franz Richter. Our party must fall in line with our position. We can't have a strong divide. True, if our party fractures, it's the opposition that will benefit. The reformist demands are clear. They want to limit the president's veto powers, ensure that the Supreme Court is independent, and take away the court's right to vote on constitutional amendments. Sure, I won't allow them to influence me. We will shape our own future. I agree, sir. The Old Guard will do its best to preserve the Constitution. Chief Justice Hawker and his allied judges have a great influence over the Supreme Court, which will be tough to break. The court also has the final say over the constitutional legislation. Without their approval, we cannot even change it. Sure, I'd rather not go against them. The risks are too high. Also, I want them on my side. We need to work with the Supreme Court one way or the other. True, but we can't let the Old Guard manipulate us and then backstab us like they did with Alfonso. Sure, we cannot allow obstructionists to exist. We can figure it out. Our party still holds 130 out of 250 seats in the Assembly. It's not a lot, not a big lead. We got the power. However, to perform the Constitution, we must receive 2/3 majority in the Grand National Assembly, which is 166 votes, and a simple majority in the Supreme Court that equates to 6 votes. After we have settled on how to proceed, we will need to talk with our party figures. Our first goal must be to get the 150 signatures needed to start the process. Following the green light from the USP, we will reach out to the other party leaders to see if they would back our draft. The last step is to convince the justices of the court. The entire process will take a long time, but we must start working with a reform committee to evaluate all possibilities for a new constitution as soon as possible. Sure, we could work with the Old Guard to protect our existing extensive powers. How? You know the public wants to enact extensive reforms, and how do we know if the Old Guard would support you? Lucian raised an eyebrow. If we go against the demands of the people, the reformists will be furious. It could backfire. No, we can handle it, just like the previous governments did. It will be a dangerous path to follow. Peter shook his head. Why would you want to work with the Old Guard? Hey, without the Sollist support, we have no power. We're talking about going against the reformists and public opinion all at once. Mr. Vice President has a point. Yeah, cut it out. What's this? All this back talk this early in the game? I've made worse decisions, right? Probably not. Cut it out, you two. Are you with me or not? If you are serious about this, I will explore the options for you, Mr. President. However, I must stress that I am not for this. I see that, but we will move towards this direction for now. Lucian scratched his head. Let's at least work with the Reform Committee to start talking with all stakeholders in the Assembly and the Court just to query opinions. I'll try to reach out to the old guard in the meantime. By later in the year, we should have an idea about the reform contents and what the other parties want. Then we can decide whether to pull the trigger. Lucian took notes. Another important point, we must be aware of the Lothberg Group. The oligarchs convene under this organization to influence economic policies. Conrad led it for a long time before falling ill. The new leader is Mr. Walter Tusk. According to reports, some members of the National Business Council are in their pockets. Tusk and the group will surely try to bribe us in exchange for special economic protections. Sure. I will enter... Sure, I want to work with them anyway. The new administration will be open to talk to businessmen. It's always easier for the administration to have businesses' support. Lucian looked at Petter. As far as I know, Marcel Caronti has some strong ties to this group. His influence could definitely be an asset for us, but I'm sure he'll want something in return. Sure. The group's influence is an important force, one that we should use to our administration's advantage. If we can get them to side with us, it all depends on what benefits we can offer and what the leader wants. We need to tread carefully on all sides with all power players to survive our term. I need to underline the seriousness of the situation. Our election campaign promised to focus on the military. This was a safe choice. The military and the general staff are a powerful element in the state, and as history tells us, a dangerous one too. Sure, the military can be close allies, and with the Rumberg threat on the horizon, we need them. Rumberg is a massive threat, one that also requires us to ally with other, stronger nations. Defense Minister Josef Lancia is more loyal to us compared to General Kruger, a fact that obviously can change with our actions. Either way, I see a potential rift between the two since they are clearly of different minds. If we act strongly against the military, both of those guys will unite against us. I agree with Lucian, we need to tread carefully here. Lucian looked at his watch. Well then, gentlemen, precisely 30 minutes. This concludes our political briefing for today. Our next meeting will be about our media strategy. Talk to you soon, sir. I will keep you in touch. See you both at the next meeting. Lucian and Petter bid their farewells and left. A mysterious amount of smoke was rising far away on the horizon. And with that, it comes to the end of this episode. Are you excited for a run? Was Solism your first choice for a playthrough? Would you prefer another ideology? I have some other ideologies planned for the future. Like we can do a full Millennialist run. We can do an ATO aligned run. But for now, we will stick with Solism. This is going to go so well. I'm going to get killed so fast. But that is going to be it for this episode. Please do remember to like, comment, and indeed subscribe. As always, I have been Pope, and I will see you all next time.